Hello, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Maya. If you're not new here, my name is still Maya. I'm currently home alone, so I always feel better filming when I'm by myself. But today I want to talk about, I don't know if this is gonna work. I wanted to talk about my first, my only, and my last situationship and what I learned from it. Because I didn't even know what a situationship was until I found myself in one. And to all my girls, or even guys out there, let me just give you a too lazy didn't read. Yes, did I forget the acronym for that? So I just said the whole thing? Yeah. They suck. What? I cannot fathom how I willingly put myself through that. And this is the last time I'm ever going to talk about it because this was nearly 2 years ago. Well, okay, not nearly, like a year and a half ago. And, this guy was, and I hate using, I'm gonna be really cringe and be like, the lingo, like, slang. That's what it was. He's chopped. Like, rose-colored glasses were on, and that's the last thing I'll say about his looks. He just wasn't a nice guy, and he had a girlfriend when we met, and he was flirting with me, and I didn't know that he had a girlfriend, and we were in science. This was in college, by the way. We were in lab, and he was playing footsie with me under the table, and I was not in my best era. I was feeling really down about myself. I was not looking cute. I was not putting effort into how I looked. I just got out of high school, and I wasn't loving life. I'll say that. And so the second this guy showed me any attention, I was like, oh, he likes me. Like the first day we met, he wrote on my water bottle, and this is so childish. He like wrote on my water bottle, and I was like, oh my god, he loves me. Like he's in love with me. And I went to my group of friends, and I was like, this guy is like, he played footsie with me under the table, and like this was like the first time we met, and they're like, oh, he likes you, and God bless my friends, but they're like, oh my god, he likes you. Like you have to keep talking to him. Started talking. And then he mentions this other girl that I thought was, I was like, oh, is that your girlfriend? He was like, no. And then I was like, oh. And then we just like, kept talking, and then we somehow ended up talking about like night terrors or something, and he told me, I was like, yeah, my girlfriend gets them. It was just me and him in the hallway, we were walking. And that's when I was like, oh, he has a girlfriend. And then I went back to my friends after class, and I was like, he has a girlfriend, guys, like, he's not into me. Because I would never, I'm no trifling girl, okay? I don't trifle. I was like, this dude's got a girlfriend, let me respect that. And then I was like, he texted our group chat literally like a few minutes after he broke up with his girlfriend. This was like December of last year, or 2 years ago. And he's like, I just broke up with my girlfriend. And then not even, 3 days later, he asked me to hang out. And I was like, and it wasn't like a, hey, do you want to go do something? It was, what are you doing right now? And I was like, my laundry. And he's like, well, you could like come do this with me. And I was like, well, I'm kind of busy. And he goes, well, you should really come with me. And I was like, okay, because I was like, oh, he likes me, and I was so excited. Which looking back on it now, I'm gonna give myself some grace. I have really low self-esteem. This was 2 years ago, and I was on an active eat at that time, so wasn't doing great. And we were just like, this man was weird. Like, I remember we were talking about something, and he asked me how much I weighed, and I was like, well, I don't weigh myself because I need to sort. And he's like, oh, and then he started guessing my weight. So and that was before he even broke up with his girlfriend. So I don't even. He also sent me voice memos, and my friend, actually both of my, cause listen, I've got some friends, but I've got two close friends, and they both went through this with me, and he would send me these weird voice memos, and they still mock it to this day. They'll send me text going, my amazing, because that's literally how he would voice memo me. And all this to say, this guy was weird. Like, he was very strange, and I thought that he was the funniest, most wonderful guy ever because he liked me, and who could like me? So he has to be like special and different because I'm not that likable. And I totally attached my self-worth to that, and I was like, well, this guy can like me. Maybe I should. That's not how it works. I promise you I didn't start liking myself until after we were no longer. And when I say together, we were together for literally a week. Like, this guy, I guess this is going to be a story time of my situationship. The way, oh, and another weird thing that he did, we were standing outside the car. We had just got back from late night breakfast for finals week, and we were me and my friends were just standing around doing something, and he bent down to my lower area and made a joke about it, which was weird in front of my gay friend and my best friend. And, well, my gay best friend. He's no longer my best friend anymore. Rip P. But, and I still didn't find that strange because that same night when he was driving me home, he said, "Do you like me?" And my first response was, "No." And then I was like, I'm not a liar. Like, there's one thing that I'm not, and it's a liar. And I was like, we barely even pulled out of the parking lot. And I was like, what am I lying for? If he doesn't like me, he doesn't like me, it doesn't matter. So I will give myself that one. And I was like, yeah, I do. And I was like, listen, if you don't feel the same way, that's totally fine. I'll get over it, I swear. And he was like, okay. And then he didn't say anything. So I was like, well, do you like me? And he goes, well, I like you as a person. And I went, okay. And I'm not really sure where the conversation went after that, but the end of the night, because he used to drive me home a lot, because I can't drive. I'm a virgin, I can't drive. And he pulled over to, like, the side street right by my house. So obviously my mom has my location, and she was tracking me. So when she suddenly sees that, she knew he was driving me home, and she sees that I'm stopped about a minute from my house and not answering my phone, this woman called me about 12 times in 2 minutes. And I should have took that as a sign because my mother's always right. But don't let her hear that. And I just kept ignoring them. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be in so much trouble. So much trouble. And I also should have took a hint that I had never hung out with guys besides this kid Michael in 7th grade. Thank you, Michael, for teaching me about Marvel and introducing me to Infinity War, because I've been a Marvel nerd since then. Anyways, I should have known that when he asked me to go to the mall with him and I felt like I had to lie about it, I told my parents, I said, oh yeah, Gabby's picking me up. Gabby drives a bright colored car, and he drove a black Nissan. And my parents have a ring. So, am I the best liar? No. And my mom noticed I was literally on my corner when she called me and said, who are you with? And I said, I'm with Gabby. She said, can I say hi to Gabby? I said, no, she's driving. And then, yeah, it was really bad. So I did get in trouble for that. But anyway, back to the story. My mom's calling and calling, and we were making out. And first of all, another sign I didn't enjoy it at all. He was my first kiss, my first real kiss. And I didn't like it at all. I wanted to open my eyes. But that could also be another thing, because I was like, oh, what if he just, like, stabs me right now? But anyway, we were, like, making out, and I was in the passenger seat, he was in the driver's seat, and I was like, dude, I really gotta go. Like, my mom's gonna beat my behind if I don't get in this house. And I was wearing a sweatshirt. I, like, run into my house. My mom's waiting at the front door. My older sister is, like, snickering from the top stair. And my mom was like, what are you doing? And I was like, Mom, I just had my first kid. And she's like, what? So I immediately called my best friend. And the second she picked up the phone, she goes, did you guys make out? And I went, she knows me so well. And we just started talking about it. And then I explained the whole thing to her. And I love Gabby, I do. She's my best friend. I wish this girl wouldn't have egged me on. But I know that she was just, like, doing it for the plot. But I don't think she would do it now. But we definitely all thought that he was normal until after this. And he turned out to be one of the worst people I've ever met. Like, genuinely cuckoo, crazy banana pants. And that's coming from me. Also, if my knee's annoying you, sucks. Also, this is my chem exam that I'm practicing for. My chem final. He turned out to be one of the worst people ever. I thought, we used to compare him and my best friend's boyfriend. And this guy that Gabby and I were both best friends with, would like trash talk and say how good this guy was, and we were all like, yeah. And it was just happening so much that I started to believe it, and I was like, wow, he's so good, he's such a good guy, like he's so nice and he's so caring. He tried so hard to build emotional closeness this quick. And that's weird. If a guy is starting to ask you about your deepest, darkest secrets within, I don't know, this was like 2 months into knowing him, that's weird. It's strange. Don't do it. And I'll tell you what happened. I never had anyone to talk to my problems about, didn't have a therapist, didn't really feel comfortable telling my parents because of my own issues. And so the second that someone wanted to hear what I had to say about my issues, I was like, oh, this must mean he cares. No, don't do it. Don't do it. That's bad. He was trying to find something that he could relate to me on. And I just remember we were in this place called Constitution. It's a dorm. And we would hang out on the lounge floor. And I was talking to someone, I think I was talking to my best friend about my issues. And we stopped talking when he walked in the room because it's none of his business. And I was talking to my best friend. And from that night on, he pestered me about what we were talking about. And I told him, I was like, oh, it just has to do with mental health, and like, I don't want to talk about it. And he pestered me about it to the point that I divulged it to him at like 1 o'clock in the morning, which, guys, I'm a grandma. I usually go to bed at like 9. So nothing good happens after 10 p.m. I promise you that. And I told him everything. And then I didn't speak to him for like 2 weeks because I was so embarrassed. Which you shouldn't be embarrassed about your struggles, but I was so embarrassed that I was so willing to divulge all this information to someone I had just met, which was also an indication that I needed therapy. But yeah, it was just weird. And he tried to keep egging me on to do it again and again, and I'd be like, hey, I don't want to talk to you about this anymore, like, I find it weird. And then he kept doing it, and then we ended up talking about it one more time, and then I was like, okay. And then he opened up slightly to me, and I was like, oh, so see, it's not just like one-sided. Yeah, it was. Because he also lied. He lied about his certain issues and barriers to overcoming those issues. He definitely has some issues. I tell my best friend that I think he has histrionic personality disorder, but I'm no psychiatrist. So around May is when he told me that he liked me and that I liked him, and I told him that I liked him. And about, I don't know, maybe it was a week before, we all like hung out to celebrate school being over, right before finals. It was either right before or right after. We were celebrating something, and we were having a good time. And then I slept over at my best friend's dorm, but I was actually sleeping over in my gay best friend's dorm. And this guy, I think I told my mom this already. God, I hope so. If not, I will tell her today. This guy was also sleeping in my best friend's dorm with me, which I completely regret. But we had been texting because I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to get a sleeping bag so that I don't have to sleep on his floor. I tried to avoid using names except for Gabby because that's my homegirl. But I texted him and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get a sleeping bag. And he's like, oh, I don't know what to do. Like, I have to ask my mom, see if it's cool. And I was like, yeah, it's a double sleeping bag. And I guess, I don't know if this was my way of flirting. I deleted all of our text messages. I was like, yeah, it's a double. And he goes, oh, it was like, he's like, oh, can I join you? Or something like that. And I was like, if you want to. I was like, I don't care. And then he's like, I can't tell if you're joking. And I was like, seriously, I don't care. I was like, I've slept with someone before. Not in that way. I mean physically sleep. I've had a sleepover before, was what I was trying to say. And he was like, okay. And then he still didn't really believe me. And I was like, it's fine. Like, I don't care. And then we ended up, like, sleeping next to each other. And then the next morning, he asked me, hey, did I try to kiss you last night? And I was like, no, you didn't. But it was just a really odd night. It was strange. And I told my best friend, I was like, he asked if he kissed me last night. Like, it's gotta mean something. And she was like, yeah, no, he really likes you. Like, I'm telling you. And then cut to like a week later or something. I don't remember exactly when. And that's when we were in the car and we divulged all this information. And then we started seeing each other, just making out. We didn't put any labels on it because it's a situationship. And he was like, I'm just not really good at like the romance stuff. Like, I'm gonna be a terrible boyfriend. Like, I'm just not good at it, and I don't want to do that to you. And I'll be fair. His intentions were, I mean, he could have had it plastered on his forehead, and I still would have ignored it. But that's the thing when people push and pull, is he would say these things and then act like my boyfriend, and that was weird. And I'm also not giving like the full details of how he was acting like my boyfriend, but he was, and I was like, yeah, I don't really want to tell anybody just yet because like if we're not actually dating, I don't want to tell anyone because to me that was embarrassing. So at least I had some common sense. And he's like, yeah, me neither. And of course, because he said me neither, then I was like, well, why don't you want to tell anyone? But then eventually, we had this whole beach night that I planned, and it was like 6 of us or something. My best friend, her boyfriend, this guy, my best friend from Canada, and our other friend. I didn't count that. And we were all hanging out on the beach, and I was like, hey, no funny business while we're hanging out with our friends. Like, I don't want to do that. And he goes, well, maybe before. And I was like, maybe. And then he's like, well, I could pretend to need something from my car and you help me with it. And first of all, there was another man there. He could have did that. And actually, there were 2 other men there. And then I was like, okay. So then we did. We were only supposed to be gone for like 5 minutes. We're gone for 10 minutes. And I was like, hey, we should probably get going. I don't want to do this anymore. And he ignored me. And I got super scared. So then I was like, hey, after the 3rd time, because Mama, I was checking my watch. Metaphorically, I was looking at the car clock because he decided to move things from the front seat to the back seat. And that was a whole another thing that I'm not going to discuss intimate details with, but it was very inappropriate and disgusting, and I never want to be in that situation ever again in my life. And even, like, it frustrates me so much because even then I was still like, oh, that's fine, that's okay. When I told my best friend at the time, Peyton, I'll say his name when I get Peyton, he told me after that, he was like, Maya, that's bordering on SA. And I was like, oh. But anyway, and it turns out that it was a pattern. Shocker. But I don't know if, is that defamation? I'm not saying his name. It's not defamation if it's true. I don't think. It's not with malice. I'm no lawyer. Well, I've already been talking for 18 minutes. This is a long one. Yeah. He sucked. He was not a great person, and turns out now he has a girlfriend, and apparently she is not very kind and very promiscuous, which, girl, if that's your prerogative, you do you. That's just it. That ain't me. And I won't lie, it did feel a little good to be like, well, I don't act that way, so. But no shame. No shade, no shame. Yeah, he sucked. And I'm very clear about my chastity. Not like in a Jonas Brother purity ring kind of way. I'm just superstitious. And so I'm convinced that, like, something bad's gonna happen if I do it before I'm 21. Which I don't know if I should be sharing that on the internet, but anyway, I made it very clear. I was like, no funny business. Not getting down like that. And my mom called it from the start. And after that night, I said to him, I called him and I was like, hey, I just want to talk to you about something. Like, you were saying things that weren't okay with me. It made me very uncomfortable. I think we're going a little too fast. And he goes, yeah, me too. I think we're moving too fast. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And he goes, oh, well, I just held your hand and kissed you goodnight. And I went, well, that's not what I'm talking about. I felt unsafe and honestly a little disgusted by the things you were saying about me and my body. Like, I made it clear that I was uncomfortable with that. And he was like, oh. And then that night ended with him crying about his ex-girlfriend. Guys, you're gonna feel really bad and pathetic for me. And that's fine, because I was pathetic in that time. Like, I will not be like, I won't lie about that. I had very low self-esteem. I hated myself. And it was very clear from the guy that, like, your partner reflects who you are. And even if he's not your partner, the people that you allow into your life reflect how you feel about yourself. And clearly I did not feel very good about myself if this was the man I let into my life. Just imagine, I said I was not going to say anything else about his looks, but just imagine a mop with a 5 o'clock shadow. And that's him. But anyway, he ended the phone call crying, saying that he was afraid that I was in love with him. Now, mind you, it had only been a week. Also, I've got 2 minutes left on this, so we're gonna hurry it up. And I said, you think I'm in love with you? That's crazy, because I was like, listen, I've never been in love, but I know what love feels like, and I love my sisters. I know, like, what familial love is. I love my best friend. I know what platonic love is. And I was like, listen, if they died, I'd probably off myself. And I said to him, I said, if you died, yeah, I'd be sad, but I'd get over it. And he told me later on that that was really harsh and it hurt his feelings, and I feel like my point was delivered. But yeah, he was just he had such confidence, and no, it was arrogance, really. It wasn't confidence. But he was so insanely insecure that it was astounding how you could be both. But like, another thing that he would act like he was my boyfriend was when my best friend came to visit, he was like, does Eliza like me? Like, I just want to make sure that she likes me. I was like, why do you care? You're only going to see her. Like, and he goes, because she's your friend and I want to make sure that, like, your friends like me. Okay. My bad for thinking. But yeah, I've got 1 minute on this left. Let's see if I can delete some other footage and keep this on. But, because I'm not even close to finish. This might have to be a 2-parter. But, yeah, just don't get into a situationship. I know it's easier said than done, but there are so many, like, red flags to look for. I don't know why it says 0 minutes, but it's still recording. Anyway, that was my little part 1 of the story. Maybe I'll record another part tomorrow. Who knows?